Okay, so I'm finally going to do a full demo of the highlighter. So hopefully I can go through this quick, get through all the features and not make you spend 30 minutes watching a video. If you have any follow-up questions, just let me know. First and foremost, you can either activate the highlighter via the icon for the extension or by using Alt plus X. So there we go, I just activated with Alt plus X. Now, what I can also do is hide it by pressing Alt plus X again. And then if I keep pressing it, it will show and hide. Or I can simply hit the hide button. Or I also can click the extension multiple times. Now it's still activated and still will work. This is just showing and hiding the window. The key too is that settings will save. So let's say I don't want to ever see this window, or at least by default. I can hide it, and then if I refresh the page, the highlighter is not on yet, but if then I go to activate it, the first time I press it, it's now activating, and I can now highlight. But as you see, you don't see the window, so I press it again to show it. So this way you can keep it the way you'd like it each time. The next thing you can do is you can change the window size. So if we go into settings, then we go over here to, let's say we wanted to create it 50% of the screen, width 70% height, hit save, go back to shrink, and there we go. So now it's about 50% width. Typically I like to set it somewhere around 25% and then around 70% height so that it doesn't really get in the way on the side here. The next thing to note is if I want to get rid of highlights, I can either hold Control on Windows or hold Alt on Macs and click a highlight, and that will get rid of it. For highlighting, you just simply select and press Control X on Windows or Command X on Mac, which is just the simple copy paste cut command. Now if I wanted to remove all highlights, I can either go into settings and hit clear all highlights, which then they're gone, or I select some stuff, I can use the shortcut key Alt plus Q. Now it is going to ask you for a prompt to confirm, just because if you accidentally hit the shortcut, you don't want to remove all your highlighters. So you hit OK, and then it removes them. So let's more or less go through these settings one at a time. So we did this, we talked about this, we talked about this. The other thing is, in the GitHub page, each of these areas have a demo showing you, so you can click that and it will show a quick GIF recording of each of the features, right? So you can go back to that later. The other thing is, by default, we copy the page title in the URL. So as we can see over here, if I make this bigger, then you'll see that you have the page title in the brackets and then the URL afterwards. So by default, when we first load it, so if we refresh, and if I hit Alt X to load, right, I get the commands, the shortcuts real quick, tell me what version it is. You don't see anything here, but by default, without doing anything, just in case you ever want to go somewhere and just get like a bookmark more or less of it, then by default it automatically saves that page title and URL to the clipboard. So if I go to Rome, for instance, and just paste, and there we go. By default, I'm going to have that bookmark, because oftentimes folks like to have the ability to just save links in that format and not have to actually have any highlights. The other thing is, if you go here, you can change the page title. So if I wanted to shorten it, I can do that, hit save, and then if I go into here, so now it's shortened, right? But it's still the same link. Okay, so the next thing. So let's went through this. Headers, bullets, and nesting. So headers and bullets are going to be auto nested and indented. So I'll show you here, for example. So let's say we copy all of this. You'll see over here, it starts with the link. Then under there, it's the part above the bullets, right? So this is going to always, it's going to be, the bullets are going to be nested under this because usually there's a header that would be there that represents the bullets. So that automatically going to nest underneath the last regular piece of text. So you can't see it as well here, but there's indents here. If we paste it into Rome, right? So there it is. Note, it actually brought over the formatting as well because this was italics in the page. It brought in this demo, and then, which was the link, and then it brought each of these bullets and nested them just how they are in Rome, right? If we go back here, we had this, and then this level under here. The other thing then is going to be headers. So if we scroll to somewhere that's more regular, right here. So I'm going to clear all the highlights. And so this is a header. So if I go like this, so it puts in H2 header, and then it nests under there. If we paste into Rome, now, let's leave all of this. It's not going to type H2, it's going to actually create a header. So this is the way my headers are formatted with my custom CSS. So we got header, getting started, and then everything nests under that. Now, let's say you don't have a header. So let's say, do Alt-Q, declare, okay. So let's say, let me go to a better, so let's say we're just looking at this. So let's say we do a highlight like this. And then let's say we have this and this. Now let's say for some reason we actually wanted this to be a header here. Right now it's not nested underneath it, right? But if we wanted it to, we can select. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to select the whole thing, you can just select really any text inside of it. And then hit Alt plus A. It turns it red, and that now means that's being treated as a header. It calls it H6. Now H6 is not going to actually change formatting in Rome, but this just it's going to tell our highlighter that we're going to nest. So if we went in here, you'll see it's nested under that section, so it artificially makes it a header to nest under. The other option, so if we were just close, I control click to delete that, so let's make it again. The other option is that you can hold Alt and right click it, and that will do it. So that's a little quicker and easier. But for the shortcuts, it is Alt plus A. Okay, while we're talking about shortcuts, the next thing I did want to show you is that you can actually customize the shortcuts. So if you go into the classic area of extensions, and go over here to extensions, keyboard shortcuts. Okay, don't mind the fact that I have a development one when I'm working on updates, but if we go down here to Rome highlighter, here it is, Alt X, Alt Z, Alt A, and Alt Q, my standard ones. You can change these. So these are all customizable, same with Firefox. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, next thing here, so we did header and bullets, and again there's demos in here you can look to that show the same stuff. Next item, removing highlights. We already did that. We showed you single highlight you can remove is control click. One thing we showed you the all highlights. One thing we did not show is part of a highlight. So let me demonstrate that. So let's say we had, so this is all one highlight, right? All one highlight because we selected it once. So if I do a control click, it's going to delete everything, right? So if I selected all these, but let's say I only wanted to remove this part, this right here, I can select it and I can hit Control X and it removes just that part. So in other words, it's the same thing as when you're adding, right? Control X to add a new highlight. You can select it, Control X to remove a highlight if you select something that's already highlighted. Okay, so that's just the ability to remove part of the highlight as opposed to the whole thing, which is the control click. Okay, now we can add double brackets for page linking and referencing in Roam. Okay, so if we had this highlighted, we have two ways. One, we can highlight a single word or page link a single word by just double clicking any word that's already highlighted and it turns it blue, right? So now if we paste this into Roam, now you'll see here highlighted and added or page linked in here. We could click that and it's a new page in Roam. Okay. The other option is we can do multi-words. So let's say we wanted to do these words here. You select multiple words and then you go ahead and hit Alt plus Z. Z is in zebra. And now two words are going to be highlighted together as one page link. So if we did that, let's say a few words there. Now, note, you can also do that with a single word. You can do that, but it's obviously much easier just to double click. So if we go in here, there you go, multiple words, back to yellow. So that's for Roam page linking. Okay. Oh, and then on that, so let's say we have a couple. To remove the highlight, okay, you simply do a control click for Windows or Alt click for Mac. Also works for Windows as well. On the highlight, and it will remove just the blue highlight. And then if you were, which means there's no more page linking for that. And then if you're to do it again, it's going to remove the whole highlight because that's the highlight removal. So again, there's a demo here for that. Changing settings. Okay, we did most of these already, but we're going to go and look at it. So I removed this earlier. Now note, you'll see it faintly in the background because that's the placeholder. Like if I type something, it's gone. But the placeholder here is the default hashtag Roam highlights. So you'll note actually in Chrome at least, if you click and there's a placeholder like that, if you click, you get right back to the defaults. And if I go up and highlight something, right, you'll see, let's go here, you'll see, oops, oh, gotta hit save. Duh. So let's go save, clear. So now if I do this, you'll see that it's wrapped. See it? You'll see right here. It's now in there. If I change it to something, you'll see it there. Now it's changed. And again, you can delete it. And then it does no hashtag page link at the end of it. And again, if you click it, the default's there, so you can quickly get back to the default. Always hit the save button after. So the next thing, I'm going to refresh just to start fresh. Now you'll notice the width, the height, everything saved from the last time, because settings save from session to session. And if you close your browser, open it up, it's all going to stay the same, so you can keep your favorite settings how you want everything set up and look. The page shell does reload because, of course, every time you go to a new page, you're not going to have a default page title set, right? So you'll notice that we removed it before, right? We can do this, save, and then if we were refreshing, it's going to give us back the page title. So the next item we're going to look at is this here, how you handle line breaks. Okay, so I have an example here. So this can be a variety of different reasons where for whatever reason your highlights aren't coming in like you want. A good example I ran into is that there's this site that is kind of, as you can see, it's sort of older looking HTML, etc. So in the background, instead of creating margins that shorten the width here, they just had actually line breaks here on the edges. So you'll see here, it essentially broke everything up, right? Every line at the end here broken into a new bullet across here. Okay. There's also an issue with this video link. So with that being said, we obviously don't want that. So we have ways to handle line breaks that aren't as we'd expect. So one of the options is you can nest under the first line break. So everything's going to go under this item here. So once we hit save, there we go. So now everything's under this, but that still doesn't really do us any good other than tell us that all these are chopped up from this initial parent bullet. There's a control plus shift plus V, same bullet, which means it's basically the soft line break, right? It's not going to create a new bullet for each item. So I'll just show you an example of what that looks like here. If we paste into Rome, right? It's all one block, okay? It's the same thing as if you'd hit Control Shift V to do a soft line break, right? So that's a little better, but still definitely not what we'd want. Then there's an option to replace with a single space, and this is what we ultimately want because that's how this is set up. So if I do that, now we got everything. If we wrapped here, now we got everything how we'd want to in a block. So if we go here and paste this instead, now it looks like how we wanted, right? Now it's not exactly how we wanted because actually in here it was two different paragraphs. So in that case, what you just want to do here is do them as separate highlights, right? There's one highlight, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you notice over here, it actually does it. If we unwrap, it does it correctly. And that's because this setting is saved to do that now by default. Okay, so now this looks good. But if we were to go back to the default, right, we'd see all of these things are broken up, which is not how we'd want it, right? So we want to go replace with single space, hit save, and then if we went into Rome, now it's perfect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs, and they all show up as they should be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So just wanted to show that capability that you can control some line breaks. Also, one other note, there is a setting to remove line breaks. So it's the same thing replaced with single space, except instead of having a space that's going to join them, it's actually just going to combine them together, which means words might get crunched together. But sometimes there's a case where, for whatever reason, lines broke, and maybe it's a URL link that you actually want combined together without a space. You have that option to just completely remove the line breaks. I guess we can quickly show you. So here, let's reload it. So if we had this, okay, if we did remove line breaks, now it's all together, but look, it's all basically one word versus the space. Removes spaces, has it correctly how you want it. Okay. So let's see. So we did the settings, we did the highlighter, page title, the line breaks, just went through that. Okay. Now I think the next big item is to show you sort of an added random, but another thing too, it's really just for me for testing, but you can actually show. So like, let's say we highlight some stuff, you can actually show the HTML, which is version of it, well. You can hide plain text. This is what's pasted into Roam, which basically just Roam interprets, the list items, which tell it to, indent or not, and keep everything good. So, again, mainly that's just for me, for testing. But just wanted to throw that out there. We got some links here. Basically, most of them are to the GitHub page to open up issues, questions, etc., demos, instructions. But then there's this other one down here, and this is going to be the Kindle notes and highlights. So, this is going to be all your Kindle books with all your highlights in them, and we can extract it into Roam format very easily. So we open it up, Alt-X. Now you'll notice if you're on this Kindle Notes and Highlights page, this new settings pops up in this new button for Get Kindle Highlights. So by default, we can literally just go here and hit Get Kindle Highlights, and it's going to get them all, and also the author, the title, the Amazon store link, etc. And then each of these highlights, and then if you have notes, the notes under the highlights, also what color highlight it is, in case you do different highlights for different categories. And so if we go into Roam, let's paste, and so there you go. Title, and it's this attribute, title, author, Amazon store link, the image of the book, and then Kindle highlights under here, and then these are all yellow highlights. Okay. Now, if you don't want to see the location, let's, for instance, of the highlight, or even the color of the highlight, it's easy. Go to settings. You can get rid of it here. So, you could also get rid of the hashtag, right? So if I save and get it again, it's going to be essentially the same thing, except for the yellow highlight doesn't have hashtag, page link. Okay? Or you can say you don't want that stuff at all. So you could get rid of both of them, hit save, get highlights, and then there you go. Now you just have the highlights, and with any of them that have a note, you have the note underneath them, right? Now, the last option is then you can actually change the way everything's structured. So the way I actually like it is this way. So the highlight with the hashtag of the highlight color, and then just have location and note underneath it. So we're going to add these back in, hit save, and change it to that one, get highlights. So now you'll see we have the highlight with the hashtag type of highlight next to the highlight. That way, we can go to the yellow highlight, and we could effectively see all the different ones of the yellow highlight categories, especially if you do different colored highlights for different categories of stuff. So it's just an option. I also like to get rid of the location, so we can do that. Get rid of location, save. Right? And then it's just the highlights with their hashtag, the type of highlight it is, with the notes underneath them. And then there's just some other options that you can do where it's actually nested, so you can actually do the color you can actually have the color be the nested item. Again, if they're all the same highlight colors, it probably doesn't make much sense. And then underneath it, the highlight, and then underneath that, the note, right? So there's just different variable ways you can do things. And that's basically it. I think that does it. I'm going to be coming out for a lot more features coming up on the Kindle stuff with more options, as well as the regular stuff too, with more options to control the way things look, the formatting, etc., etc. I hope you enjoy.